Lesson 5 is on life in Sparta. Yesterday we talked about daily life in Athens. Today we're going to talk about the other major Greek city-state, Sparta. We're going to finish up yesterday's notes, and then of course we're going to do the classic activity of an Athens and Sparta Venn diagram comparison. After that, then we will watch a Greek myth video again. So the I can compare and contrast Athens and Sparta. This information comes from our history textbook, the McGraw-Hill textbook that we use. So our finished example is going to look something like this. Here's from a previous student. So it ends up looking something like this. Athens on the right side, we already know about Athens. We learned about it yesterday. Athens had a focus on education, and they taught their boys to do public speaking and other, a variety of different subjects in school. Men were allowed to have many different jobs. Women typically stayed at home in Athens. The Parthenon is a beautiful temple built in Athens with a 30-foot tall statue of Athena inside. People finished school at age 18. The Athenians encouraged travel and allowed their citizens to travel and trade, and they used coins for money like other city-states. Sparta, on the other hand, their government was not a democracy. Sparta was run by two kings. So they had two kings plus like a council of elders as well. Sparta was not a democracy. Sparta was an oligarchy. That means it was ruled by just a few people. Sparta, of course, is famous for its intense focus on military training. All male citizens were soldiers. The reason for that is, as Sparta expanded, they took over the city-states that were right next to them and enslaved the people there. Those slaves they called the helots. And the slaves of Sparta are who did all the work. They did all the farming, they did the construction and building, and they made ceramic pots and anything else that needed to be done. Any random job that you needed to have done was done by the helots, or the slaves of Sparta. Any man who was a citizen of Sparta was trained to be a professional soldier. They believed that they needed to be strong, tough soldiers so that they could be mighty enough to keep all the slaves or the helots in line. In Sparta, women actually had much more freedoms, and that's because the men were gone for so long, off fighting wars and in military school. In Sparta, the school lasted from the age of 7 to the age of 20. So at 7 years old, the parents would drop their kids off at school, and the child would actually live in the military school, training every day on military strategy and battle techniques from the age of 7 to 20. When they were 20, they graduated from school and they were able to join the regular army as an actual full-time soldier. Men could marry in their 20s in Sparta, but they actually weren't allowed to live at home with their wives until they had turned 30. So say somebody married at the age of 22, they would still have to live in the military barracks for 8 more years until they could actually go live in the home. And because the men were not even allowed to live at home with their wives till they were at age 30, women had a lot more freedom to run the businesses and to be more involved in what was going on. Sparta, of course, is known for its harsh treatment of people in school. They discouraged their citizens from traveling. One student wrote on here, killed weak babies. That's because when parents had babies, they couldn't just keep the baby. The baby really didn't belong to them. It belonged to Sparta. So a newborn baby was taken to the council of elders for inspection, and if any baby was deemed to be weak or sickly or it was born with any deformities, the baby was not allowed to live and to grow up in Sparta because they believed that any weak citizens would lead to weakness in the city-state, which they just didn't allow. Sparta resists change, and that's kind of evident in the fact that all the other Greek city-states had switched to coin money, but the Spartans continued to use heavy metal iron bars for money, when that really helped to kind of isolate them culturally from the rest of Greece. So they weren't trading and involved in commerce. I mean, what we get as a result is Athens actually became a very wealthy city-state through its trade and merchant economy. Sparta, while it was a tough military society and renowned for its ferocious warriors, remained a rather poor farming city-state. Both city-states are in Greece. They're both city-states. They have the same religion, the same myths. They believe in all the same Greek gods. They have the same language. And both city-states kept slaves. While we sometimes think of Sparta as this cruel city-state and Athens was this forward-thinking city-state which emphasized ideas. It was still a Greek city-state in ancient times, so they still had slaves. Both city-states also had city councils, although in Athens, those city councils, they were picked through lottery, and they made decisions democratically, whereas in Sparta, their city council was just kind of the small group of influential families that made all the decisions. So there's a lot that's the same about them and a lot that's different. Watch some of the videos below for more information.